Hey YouTube, this is Zach with Achilles Financial. We're back with another video to start the week with additional economic data coming out this week. Today is September 13th. It is a Sunday. Tomorrow we have nothing coming out on the economic indicators front, but what we are going to be looking at is on Tuesday when what's not listed here, but the FOMC meeting will start. The FOMC is the Federal Open Market Committee, and what they do is they look at economic policy, they look at a lot of economic data, and they make determinations on how they expect the United States economy to grow, and in particular, some of the industrial metrics as well. So what we're looking for from that meeting is basically guidance in terms of where do we expect GDP to go, because that is obviously going to be a huge factor. We've been listening and waiting for all this economic data to say that we're going to have this blockbuster fourth quarter. We are seeing a huge uptick in growth from what we saw in Q1 and in Q2. However, we do have to recognize that this still doesn't mean it's fantastic for our current economy because we're still in a tough spot. And we'll talk about that with some of the metrics here today. What I also want to highlight is we have the Fed comments coming on Wednesday. You also cannot see that here on the chart here for the Fed commentary. I don't think that we're going to see anything surprising there. I do anticipate that we're going to have Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell come out and say that they're going to continue to support the market and continue to support the United States economy with its Fed rate decisions. So with that being said, between those two meetings, the FOMC and the Fed, I think what could potentially be a market mover is going to be the FOMC decisions that come out on Wednesday, not necessarily the commentary by Jerome Powell on Wednesday morning. So with that being said, let's keep diving into the prices that we see here. I'm actually watching the oil prices currently. And the reason for that is because oil is kind of continuing to dip lower. There's a lot of back and forth with Saudi Arabia as well as some of the other OPEC members and how much oil China is purchasing as well. So we're in a weird spot with that. So I am interested to watch this purely based on the oil side, but I don't think that this is going to be an overall market mover. But if oil continues to drop, then I may look at some of the oil producing stocks such as or even some of a leveraged ETF like a GUSH, GUSH ticker symbol. So going to be watching those. The other item that is going to be important is this Empire State Manufacturing. That is a manufacturing indices that is utilized to measure the different economic output, particularly in the New York region. So the reason I want to watch that is because New York has stayed closed down a lot longer than other states. However, last time this report came out, they were doing pretty well on the manufacturing front. So I'm interested to see, is this positive data? And if so, how positive? Industrial production, again, these and capacity utilization, these three metrics right here are not market movers unless they surprise. So we want to see these come out in a positive light, particularly a little bit higher than these from an economic perspective if we want to see the market go up. So all of this is on Tuesday. On Wednesday, following those Fed comments, we're also going to see mortgage applications, which really was not going to change the market in a crazy way. The retail sales and retail sales ex auto, this is going to be important, but I don't know if it's going to be a market mover because people have continued to spend a lot of money. So while savings rates are up, spending rates are still out there. It's just what are you spending money on? It's not necessarily all the fun toys and such at this point. So people are not out spending money at restaurants and out spending money at travel or leisure. So it's where that money going. It's a lot of home improvement, a lot of personal vehicles, and other items that again are fun stuff but not necessarily the going out. So I want to see kind of that split. This is going to affect restaurant stocks, think Yum, and a few other stocks like maybe even a McDonald's type of item. So again, I don't know if that's going to move unless it's a positive movement. We don't want that to be negative on the consensus side. The other item here again is that crude oil inventories. I don't know if that's going to be a huge factor at this point in time for what we're going to see this week, because a lot of that information is continuously available. So this probably isn't going to be a surprise. And then we've got the FOMC reading or rate decision coming from the meeting the day before. This is going to be important, but again, I see no way that this comes out as a surprise personally, because they've continued to say, hey, this is what we're doing, this is what we're doing. And I can't fathom that they would raise rates right now, and we're definitely not going to go to negative rates. On Thursday, we have the initial and continuing claims, housing starts. The Philadelphia Fed index is going to be important because that's saying, hey, this region, another region which has continued to stay closed down due to COVID-related scenarios, how do people feel in that area? What do they expect? The other item I want to highlight for the initial claims is the Fed chart that we can look at here. So I've got the initial claims chart up here, just looking at this year. As you can see, even if we close it down a little bit more, it's pretty insane, the rebound that we've seen coming since this really popped off back in March. The good news is, as we see everything here, is that there's a rapid decrease from that peak and it's continuing to go down. My one concern is the fact that even though it's continuing to go down, it's still 4 times higher than what we saw prior to the coronavirus. So again, we were at near full employment in 2019 and the early part of 2020. However, just because we're seeing a lot of positive economic data now does not mean that we're still in a good place. So this can be a market mover if we have a good surprise, but what we're really looking for is for this to, as long as it continues trending down, if it spikes up, then that could be reflected poorly on stocks. Because now again, we're about 2 weeks from the last unemployment rate announcement. So it's important to keep track of this because, again, this is what people are going to gauge what that next number may be. And lastly, this Friday, we've got current account balance, which again doesn't really move the number. We've got the leading indicators measures, which again, they don't necessarily move the market. And lastly, we have the University of Michigan consumer sentiment. Again, none of these are market movers. I will say if you're into economics, the University of Michigan consumer sentiment is very interesting. It's just a survey of a number of different businesses and industries talking about how they feel on a go-forward basis in the current economy, as well as from the consumer perspective, from the buyer perspective. So it's really cool to be able to see that. Next, I want to talk about 2 events in 2 stocks that I actively follow, just so that we can have the conversation and talk about some of the plays I'm looking for this week. So the first one I want to mention is, again, Pfizer. Again, we've talked about this channel this particular stock on this channel all the time right now. I continue to like this stock. One of the items that I'm going to be looking for this week is if I can get that price back under $36 a share. I do want to purchase additional shares. I'm still working to get to 100 shares, so that's one of the things that I like about it. The item also that is excellent is, as you can see, they've got a 4.2% dividend under the current share price, which is very good. As well as one of the items that I really like about this is they are increasing their COVID-19 vaccine trial, and they anticipate to have that data completed by the end of next month. The other item that we may see some additional information coming from is September 15th. That will be this upcoming Wednesday. They are going to have their investor day where I anticipate that they will talk about some of their drugs that are in their stage 3 FDA trials. If that's the case, then I think that we're going to be in a really good spot in terms of seeing some of that long-term growth. And then the other stock that I'd like to discuss is going to be, as always, NVIDIA. The reason that I like NVIDIA is because what you may see on some of their news items here is what are NVIDIA and ARM, SoftBank close to selling chip designer NVIDIA, who are NVIDIA and ARM. All of this stuff is talking about ARM, which is a huge UK-based chip manufacturer that is partially owned or in a majority owned by SoftBank, and they are looking to potentially sell to NVIDIA. Now, last time this news kind of came off, they had a little pop-up, but we haven't seen any additional news. I do think that this is going to be a big deal. I'd like to see this deal go through because it would continue to cement NVIDIA's place as kind of the leader of the pack in this industry, and it would be excellent addition to just their straight up bottom line. If that is the case, then I do anticipate seeing this in the very near future occur, and it would have an immediate impact on the stock price, which, as you can see, over the past few months, it's continued to kind of go up and down, up and down. So interested in watching this. I think we're going to be in a good spot. I don't know from a play perspective what I'm going to do yet. I am going to obviously be looking at the calls, but if we don't get this at the right time, then even if it does go up, we may still lose out due to some of that IV crush or the volatility crush. So the two stocks I'm looking at this week from a play perspective are Pfizer and Nvidia, which again, we've been looking at them from a long-term perspective as well, but it's going to be important to watch those. So thank you for watching this video. If you have plays that you're looking at this week that involve economic indicators or even just some of these different stocks, please let me know in the comments below. And if you found this content helpful, please leave a like and subscribe.